Hello, and welcome to another episode of Discord Discussions, a gaming podcast where gaming topics are discussed at length. This show is run by OddHour, yours truly, and will feature several guests during its life cycle. Today, we'll be taking a look at the lack of an E3 this year and the impact it could have for future years, as well as other various topics that come to mind. So without further ado, let's get into the discussion. Hi, welcome to Discord Discussions episode 2 with, it's me, OddHour, Mukhtar, and my co-host, Spenser, my co-host, lovely co-host. Thank you for coming, Spenser.
No problem. Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. So before we get into this, we wanted to make a clarifying note. With this, most of this episode was recorded in the middle of May, and when there are key times where we mention the context, and the context exclusively refers to the pandemic of COVID-19 that the world is dealing with at this time.
Right.
So keep that in mind. Keep in mind that this was, I think the actual record date was maybe May 16th as we go through this. And what we're doing here is we're re-recording just the beginning so we could introduce ourselves to you guys and reestablish, a conversation that we did have that I needed to chop up. So, right. With that in mind, let's get into it. The first thing we talked about was E3 this year. How do you feel about it?
So when we started talking about this, we kind of the whole topic of this episode is the whole game hype cycle transitioning to the new reality we're in, where there's no physical events, no nothing, and no E3 this year. It's kind of crazy because this is kind of unprecedented, but it's sort of been a long time coming, because E3 has become less and less impactful, and it's become more and more of a chore,
right,
for game devs, because for example, a game dev, not only do they have to finish a game, but they also have to always keep in the back of their minds getting something ready for E3, whether it's like a vertical slice of like the game as a demo or something. That June deadline, that June event is always there, and as nice
pressure
as,
from
as
that
cool as it
really,
was,
really
with 11 memories of watching E3, it just became more and more of like, the game industry has kind of drifted away from like that June centric, like E3 centric kind of marketing cycle, because as Nintendo Directs and other stuff have shown, you could just drop a trailer on a random Wednesday and like have your own presentation, on your own time, your own schedule.
And Sony pulling out is a testament to that, because Sony does Nintendo Direct style videos now.
Right, but their state of plays, which have been okay, not like as good. I mean, to be fair, I think the last one that they did in like December was pretty cool. It had some like cool like surprise moments. Like they showed off like Resident Evil 3 remake. I know one of them was only like 10 minutes long, but then they just ended with like Final Fantasy 7 remake, which was like when the big hype cycle started, which is huge. But they have like admitted that like, most audiences just want, like a direct style presentation where it's just, hey, tune in at this time, watch like 50 trailers at once in this slickly edited, presentation.
Right. How did you respond to E3? E3 stands for the Electronic Entertainment Expo, for those who don't know. Just a little clarification.
The three E's.
The three E's, E3. How did you feel about it when it got canceled?
I was bummed. I definitely saw it coming, just because everything else is being canceled, and with E3 being so international, there was just no way with the current situation, with the virus, there was no way they could pull this off safely.
Of course.
Now I was like very surprised that they didn't opt to do their own virtual thing and sort of like keep the views in their wheelhouse, kind of.
Right.
Instead of like what you have now, where it's like you have Summer Game Fest and you've got IGN doing their own thing, and then Ubisoft's doing their own thing, and EA is doing their own thing, Mm-hmm. So I guess it's also a testament to like, how these other studios are like, just like, we'll just do it ourselves,
Right.
And again, it's like, Sony didn't show up last year. They had announced that they weren't coming this year, like months beforehand. Maybe they knew. Maybe they were like, wait a minute, they had some like, they knew something we didn't, and I'm like,
I've got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like there were like rumblings of just like, like Jeff Keighley, the guy who runs the Game Awards, he dropped out. There was this big problem. They had the company that runs E3. They had like this huge security breach one year, and they just like almost the entire attendees list was doxxed and stuff, and it was just
Whoa.
It was really bad. Yeah.
Damn. All right. So I think later on we do talk about like the downfall of E3 and all that. But yeah. I mean, like we said this earlier, or no, sorry, we didn't say this earlier. I'm just referring to me editing this. Yeah. We were talking about this being a really good time for gaming and how the industry might suffer from it.
Yeah. So as horrible as COVID-19 is, and just the nature of how the world has to operate, streaming, digital entertainment really has stepped in as really, I mean, like, it's always been great. I mean, it's always done well, but now it's so much. Yeah. Right, like internet bandwidth usage has like quadrupled, with like gaming, digital sales.
The big video game spending statistic that it's the highest it's ever been for the first quarter of 2020.
Especially digital sales just went through the roof. Animal Crossing, like New Horizon, just became one of the best-selling Switch games in like a matter of like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So there's just this huge demand for things to do in your house. And it's just it was just interesting to see, because of course all these companies are dealing with it in their own way. So it was interesting to see, and of course all these companies, they have to adapt to working from home as everybody else did, and they have to adapt to, okay, now we're not beholden to an E3, but we're sort of beholden to the idea of a cool summer hype fest,
Of course, and what people usually did with E3 was it was like, okay, whoever, like E3, the competition of who has the best E3 usually tells you who's going to do good in like the fall.
Right. Whoever's got the big holiday title, and especially with always like next gen E3s, like this was going to be a big one, because you got the Xbox Series X, you got the PS5, you got whatever Nintendo is going to put out to kind of counter that. So these E3s are always huge, especially because like the past few years have kind of just been like kind of appetizers, because they were like, even like Microsoft was like, yeah, this year we're showing you all this stuff, but next year like everybody kept talking about next year. Right. And now next year is here and there's no E3. So, so like, I mean, well, okay. So like, since we're recording this June 2nd right now, and we couldn't mention it in the original thing. Since then, Sony has announced their big PS5 event, which actually was delayed.
For good reasons.
For very good reasons, because they were like, we feel like we can't really celebrate gaming when all these protests are going on, and better voices need to be heard, which totally
more important voices need to be heard right now than PS5. Right. Exactly.
Right. So they were going to come out swinging with their big hour-long next-gen PS5 press conference. Xbox is going to have theirs in July. So that's still there, and they're still going to transition to digital. It's not going to be like on a big stage, like televised and such and such. So yeah, okay. So we still have it. And if ever, like those viewer counts are going to be higher than ever, because everybody's just like, well, I'm home, I'm going to watch it, You don't
really have a choice but to be home and watch it.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. And on that note, finish your thought.
Yeah, so it's just going to be interesting to see what happens, and then we sort of go into everything that had happened before we had recorded originally, and sort of talk about how the schedule looks for the rest of the summer. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, because it's going to be, instead of just 1 week in June, it's just going to be kind of stretched out throughout the whole summer. So.
Right, and I think that's we do talk about that later on. But on that note, so that we do get to the content that is still relevant and still can be discussed, this is where we transition into what was recorded in the middle of May.
Right.
So consider this a natural break between, more relevant to things that are still relevant but just recorded at a later date.
Yep.
An important thing to remember is that usually when fans decide who had the best E3, that's usually a good marker of who did the best. People generally take that as a good marker.
Who had the best trailers? Who had the who won E3? So it's just like, it's just a lot, and it was just kind of on the downfall because it's just developers were realizing, just like a Nintendo Direct, a developer can just kind of generate their own hype sometimes. Like even like Sony has been doing like Nintendo Direct style things with like the state of plays.
A lot of people have been doing Nintendo Direct style things, if we're being real, but that's a different point.
Google Stadia has been doing their own Nintendo Direct thing.
Good, the Google Stadia.
Oh my God,
little self-plug here. If by the time you hear this, there will be footage of me playing the Stadia somewhere. I'm planning that to upload that to YouTube as well as when I stream it on Twitch.
Courtesy of me, I got 3 months of Stadia for being a YouTube Premium member, and I do not want it. So
big shout out to Spenser for that
one. You're welcome. You're welcome, viewers at home.
But yeah, as much as a joke as Google Stadia is, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, so it's just E3 is becoming less and less important. As we're going to go into the discussion of what it means now that E3 is, canceled for the year, and potentially all these developers realizing, hey, wait a minute, we don't need this. So this segues into our next thing, which is, what replaces it? What do game studios talk about in the summer? Because there's always these summer expectations of what's going to happen. So instead, the general consensus is that instead of putting it into one week of stuff in June, all of these announcements are just going to be spread out in the next 4 months from May to August. My understanding.
It might have said September, but August does sound right because it's called the Summer Games Fest, so it wouldn't really make sense if it went into September.
Which is run by Jeff Keighley, who's the guy who runs the Game Awards every year. He's I'm not really sure what his position is. I know he's just a game enthusiast. He's a game guy. And
he's just a game guy. That's really the best way to describe him, honestly.
Yeah, he's a game guy. He's really into games. He really loves celebrating them as a medium, and he really believes in the power of it, which is great. So he's put it on himself to not necessarily they're going to have announcements for the Summer Game Fest, but he's also he said he wanted to be a traffic cop, so to speak, where it's he's just pointing people towards what companies are going to say.
Right.
So he's got this. So one of the main features of the Summer Game Fest is they just have this massive calendar, and whenever a studio announces they're going to do something, they throw it on that calendar and they promote it on Twitter and stuff, which is really cool because it's just one handy little thing.
Right.
So it's just going to be interesting to see. Because game developers have stuff to show. They planned for E3, because E3 was so, quote unquote important.
Of course.
And despite not having, the same production value or doing a live stage presentation, they can still show stuff off, and they can still get people excited for stuff. For example, the new Assassin's Creed, that was just just a live stream and a trailer drop.
Yeah.
They can still just do that. That's the beauty of video games. You can just you don't have to do anything physically.
Hype with video games will always be a thing. Hype will never go away with a video game. It's a very consistent thing.
Right.
Which is a good thing, because it means things like E3 don't necessarily need to happen. You can give breaks to developers who are, stressing themselves out endlessly because the tech demo isn't ready for E3 yet. What are we gonna? I'm gonna get fired. There's a lot of pressure that goes into that.
Yeah, well, that's a big issue with just with Naughty Dog is notorious for that recently, and they've gone on record being getting just a vertical slice of gameplay for E3 perfectly polished just puts so much extra time and effort onto their production schedule. And now with E3 canceled, a lot of studios, even like some, maybe they have some things ready, but they're not rushing to get stuff out because they're like, well, there's no E3 and there's no expectation, so we can just relax and kind of focus on our employees. And that's very much what like Nintendo and Square Enix have recently said, because they're like, we're not gonna stress out. We'll just do things at our own pace,
Which is a really good thing, because like, you cannot understate the quality, like that game quality improves severely when things get delayed, right? Like Cyberpunk 2077 and Avengers getting delayed, and even The Last of Us 2 getting delayed. Even though Naughty Dog's kind of
got delayed to like to what it was now.
Say that again. What got delayed?
Animal Crossing. It was supposed to come out last year, but then they were like, "Oh, we'll push it back a few more months." So.
And Animal Crossing is so good.
I think it's the best-selling Switch game now. Like,
it's about to outsell. I saw a tweet. I don't know if this is true. It's about to outsell every top-selling PS4 game.
Yeah. Like almost every single one, except I forgot what it was. But
the first one, the top one, I think was oh my goodness, I don't remember off the top of my head. Maybe the Uncharted.
It might have been Uncharted 4 or something.
But yeah, but every single one, but it's on track. Like Animal Crossing sales have not dipped to the point where people aren't like, oh, they're not going to beat Uncharted 4. They're going to beat Uncharted 4. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah. And Animal Crossing again is like, it came out like, not only was it its quality because of the delay, but it's also got delayed into like the perfect opportunity to release an Animal Crossing game. Because everybody's stuck at home and being unsure about things, and it's like, okay, well, let's go to this really relaxed, like vibed out game.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, good. Sorry.
So anyway, so we have like a few sort of these like summer festivals that are gonna happen and sort of talk about like all these different games. So you have the Summer Games Festival. You've got
excuse me. Oh my goodness. Wrong pipe with the water. ASMR coughing. No. Oh my god.
Welcome to our coughing chat.
I'm good. Okay. Sorry, Summer Game Fest, you were saying.
Yeah, so we have Summer Game Fest. We've got, I think IGN's doing their own thing. I think GameSpot's doing their own thing.
How does that work? How do news outlets have their own thing? Are developers teaming up with the news outlets to have like their own directs with them, or what?
They are. So that's the issue. So like a lot of developers, they may opt in to be like, hey, here's this new game announcement. You can have the exclusive. Like, it's like a report, like, like a witness selling like their story to like a newspaper, like an exclusive or something. So
yeah,
like, like would be like, hey, here's this new Cyberpunk trailer. You can have this. Here's this new Assassin's Creed trailer. IGN gets this. So if a developer doesn't want to like if the developer's not big enough, they might be like, hey, here's the new thing. You can help us spotlight it. But like if like most publishers are probably going to want to talk about it on their own terms. Like you got, Ubisoft announced they're doing their own thing in July. Microsoft announced they're doing their own thing in July for like all their first party games. Cyberpunk announced they're doing their own like Nintendo Direct thing just for that game. So it's just interesting to see like how who wants to rely on these game fests and who wants to just let them control their own story, so to speak.
Right. Well, who do you think? I feel like indie developers kind of need this. I feel like indie games get a really good showing at E3 half the time.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like with E3, a lot of indie games, like it's really cool when like I always respect when like Xbox or like PlayStation have their own little like indie reel, and there's like, here's the small developers that we helped, and they're the future of the game industry.
Stuff like that is nice, but they always do that at E3, and I don't see they can't do that now, right? They need to show all the good stuff because everything's spread out over like 4 months.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because it's like some games they do better on the bigger stage, but then like some games just kind of get just drowned out by like the big announcements. So like this might work in some indie devs' favors, because like now with the Summer Game Fest and like all these like announcements spread out over so many weeks, you know, each game can sort of get like they're up, like you could kind of keep a game a mystery, and then there's like, oh, here's an announcement on Tuesday, and then everyone's like, oh, what is it on Tuesday? And then it could just be like this cool indie game, and then and then you have all these eyes watching, and then it's like, oh, a lot of people may like that game, you know.
Yeah.
It's not as big of an audience as putting it in with like, you know, your Call of Duty and your Assassin's Creed, but it's, you know, it's still something, you know, and each game sort of gets to breathe. Like, for example, like I kind of liked this week in particular because it was like on Tuesday there was like the new Tony Hawk game, and everyone was kind of just talking about Tony Hawk. And then
Tony Hawk remasters for 1 and 2. They're coming out what, September? They said September release dates for the Tony Hawk remasters.
For the remasters of 1 and 2, which is crazy. It was Tony Hawk's birthday on Tuesday, by the way. That's why they did that.
Oh, see, that's cute. I like that.
Yeah, it was really nice. And in the Summer's Game Festival, they helped Tony like announce that, and that makes sense because it's like he's not really like, I mean, like the Tony Hawk games are crazy good, but it's not like, you know, like a big publisher was like, we're gonna hold on to that. Like that was kind of like Tony like just doing that himself.
Right.
So it was cool. So everyone was talking about that Tuesday, and then Wednesday was the big Unreal 5 presentation, and everybody was talking about that. And then Thursday was just like Paper Mario, which was just Nintendo.
Nintendo being like, hey, wait a second, we have something too.
Yeah, and then Nintendo was like, oh, here's this game. We were going to talk about it later, but just here you go. You know, and then they had Ghost of Tsushima, so it's like everything sort of spread out and everything sort of gets time to breathe, so you're not just overloading with like information.
It's funny, you say that things are spread out to give you time to breathe, but when you put it like that, when you list all the things, it's kind of hard to catch your breath because there is a lot got announced very recently. Well, in regard to this recording.
It's all big, but it's also like that was like just 2 days, like a week, as opposed to like that on top of like literally everybody else in the game industry like screaming about their new thing.
Right.
You know, within the same day. So I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit better, but it's also like it's still a lot. But it also just goes to show like that's just the first week of this supposed like hype season, quote unquote, you know?
Yeah, and I think the good thing about that is it's like we don't have a single thing to look forward to. So again, going back to that hype factor, it's just like you have to constantly be ready because at any moment something crazy could happen.
Right, and that's sort of, I guess, to its detriment at a time, because it's like, you know, gamers are always like, with hype culture, they always like get their expectations way too high.
Yeah.
And they always sort of like, they always kind of feel like entitled to like something, like it always happens when there's a direct, and then like when they don't have like the game they wanted, or it's like if they didn't have enough like reveals, then it's like, oh well, this sucked, and blah 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 blah. You know, but it's still good. You know, it's just you know, you just set the bar so high, and I feel like with so many like tune in like mystery reveals every week, everyone's just gonna be like, after a while, like I know people are already getting like burned out because they're like, you know, you keep hyping up these announcements, you know, I'm not gonna like it, you know, like they're gonna be like, well, no one's gonna tune in because no one's gonna watch it. I mean, people are still gonna tune in because they're still curious, but you know,
of course,
like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it's not like as big of a thing as it would be otherwise. Right,
and it's also, again, it's not on the developer, and it's not on like the Summer Game Fest for having it like that's all on them setting their own expectations. Like they didn't say to expect anything, you know, like, or whatever. Like it's just the gamer going in and being like, well, this is gonna get announced, and this is gonna get announced, and this is gonna get announced, but like nothing shows that that's actually gonna happen, you know?
Right. I don't know. I'm excited, but at the same time, I'm really skeptical because I don't know. I'm just nervous, if I'm being real, like, because it makes you worry about if like gaming can get through it, because like with the stock market and everything else crashing. It's like, you know, the big gaming fail of like the 80s that got saved by Mario. It's like, what's Nintendo going to pull out of their ass to save gaming this time?
Oh, no, I mean, I think gaming's thriving now. Like we said, gaming sales are like through the roof. The only thing that would slightly be an issue is like, I mean, most games can be made from home remotely nowadays. Yeah. So I don't think, like, there might be some delays in like distribution and stuff. But a lot of companies have gone on record saying that like this isn't going to affect their production. Now, it's a completely different story for Japan, because Japan has no concept of a work from home culture at all.
Right.
Because there's very much just like this business etiquette of like you can't really show your business partner like respect through like video call and stuff.
Right.
Like everything has to be done in person. Everything like so like, and like the Japanese like work culture is so like outdated. Like they just are not up to like modern technology. Like surprising considering it's Japan, but like
right.
So like, and Japan like declared their like state of emergency like a lot later than others, so like they just announced it in like mid-April, and it's gonna keep going until like July, August, and like all of these Japanese developers are like scrambling to try to figure out how to do this. So like Nintendo, I know, is like really struggling with this, and so that's why they were also like, we're not gonna do a June presentation, you know, because we just can't, you know, get it together, you know, which is fine, you know. I don't, you know, listen, you know, there's more important things happening right now than gaming.
Obviously, but you know, it's still like, you know, as a gamer, and you have something to look forward to. It's concerning as much as it is like, I do want this, you know.
Yeah, of course. Like I'm, you know, I want everybody to be safe. I want everybody fine. You know, this is definitely something that's going to start conversations in like Japanese business culture about like how like the workplace is viewed and how they're going to adapt. Because like a lot of them just don't, you know, they just don't have the setup to work from home.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, take as much time as you want. I don't really care. But it's also like, yeah, like it would be nice to like, you know, because now's the time where like time of the year where like you're just like thinking about what they're gonna reveal and what's gonna happen.
Knowing Nintendo, and going back to the last episode that we did for this, you know, I'm not worried about the things that they're going to reveal. I'm just worried about if they're going to be delayed, because again, I don't know if I said this last time, but I've said it personally among friends. It's like, this holiday season is going to be fucking insane.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot that's going, like...
They need to deliver. Yeah, they really need to deliver.
How can you keep the Switch relevant in a market that's going to be flooded by the PlayStation 5 and the very greatly named Xbox Series X?
Yeah, I mean, like, Nintendo's always good at, like, just doing their own thing, and that's very much what the Switch has been doing to their favor. And the Switch has like had some of its best like sales weeks since Animal Crossing came out, since the quarantine happened. Like you can barely like when this started, like people were buying Switches like crazy. And,
yeah, Switches finally started coming back to the market like now.
Yeah,
like mid-May.
Now you can get a Switch, right? Like this, like for like almost all of April, you could barely get a Switch on them. So like Nintendo's got so much money in the bank that they're fine. You know, like they like even though when people were like, you know, like the dark ages of like the Wii U era, you know, like Nintendo didn't care. Nintendo was fine, you know.
Yeah.
They've got so much legacy money, like they're fine. But I do, you know, as much as Nintendo's strength, like they win the console game by not playing. But and I don't think that they should compete or let the competitors influence what they do, but I do think just to like, you know, get their piece of like the public psyche when holiday spending time comes around, they're gonna want to have something new and shiny just to show off and be like, you can only play this on Switch, play this, you know. And Nintendo's always good at that, you know, especially with the Switch. Every year since it came out, they've had a holiday title. You know, they had you know Mario Odyssey when the Switch first came out. You know, they've had Smash, they had Pokemon. So now they're sort of like, you know, what's going to be the next big thing for them?
It's a good question. There are rumors, always rumors, and Paper Mario kind of, you know, subtly confirmed it, but you know, nothing's ever set in stone with stuff like this.
Right. So
it's an
you know,
important thing to consider.
Right. So like as much as you know, like you don't want things to be delayed, and you know they'll be fine. You know, if they miss a holiday or two, it is interesting to see, you know, what are they gonna do, and how far in advance do you think like this will affect them, and other developers. Because again, it's like this was, you know, just to put all this in perspective and why we're really talking a lot about E3 and stuff, is that this was going to be a huge E3. Like this is going to be like the big, you know, like console war, like, you know, like Xbox bringing out all their big games. And
there were rumors of another JPEG of Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, exactly. I need to see another JPEG. Like, come on, I need to get my hopes up for another 3 years. So like, so yeah, so everybody was like really had their hopes up to see, like, because I love when a new console generation comes around, because it's just pure anarchy. Like they just show off all this crazy they just make all these promises, and it's just like, I like talking as someone who doesn't buy like I'll buy a PS5 or an Xbox whenever, like 3 or 4 years later, when it's like half off and like all the actual good games that I want are out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna buy anything this holidays. But a lot of people are, and they're gonna want to capitalize on that, and they're just gonna go nuts,
Yeah.
But now that that's gone, it's like, well, what are you gonna do,
What are you gonna do? What's it gonna be?
Right, what's it gonna be, Sony? You gonna give us a Spider-Man or what? Come on, what's it gonna be?
I saw someone make a mock game cover art of Marvel's Venom, and I was like, that would have been so nice.
That would have been so nice.
Yeah. What's next on the docket? What do you got?
What's up?
What's next on the docket? What do you got?
Yeah, so it's just excuse me. So it's just interesting to see how these companies are gonna sort of adapt to this. Because Xbox has sort of been out there, and like they already showed off the console. They've already shown off Sun games. They've already promised Sun games.
Sony's keeping it very close to the vest.
Right, Sony has only shown off like a controller, and we don't know like a single game that's coming to PS5, except for one game they showed off at the Game Awards, which wasn't even like a Sony game. It was like a third-party game. Yeah, so it's just, like, when is Sony gonna like drop their presentation? Xbox has been very, very clear about their messaging. Like, they already announced that like every month leading up to release, they're gonna have sort of like their own presentation, like once a month, and they already did one, which was okay. They had a lot of smaller games, and they made it clear that like none of their like first-party games were gonna be shown off until July. But it's just nice to know that they like, it's just nice to know that like they were very clear with like being like, hey, here's what we're going to show you, this is what we have lined up. Like Sony and Nintendo just haven't done that.
Yeah.
And they're very like mysterious about it.
That mystery builds hype though, and that's, Sony and Nintendo definitely live off of the hype big time.
Oh yeah, totally. So yeah, so it's just, I don't know, we're just kind of in like this weird like limbo where it's like, around now, like the hype cycles would have started by now, and now we're just kind of like, everything's just up in the air, which is, again, it's a video game, so it's kind of the last thing, to worry about, of course, out of all this. But it's just interesting to think like, oh, this is, this is just like, this was like the worst year for this to have happened for games,
Yeah. A little bit.
I mean, it's the worst year, but it's also the best year, just with like how well games have done and how many games are out there that people can enjoy in this time that they need more entertainment.
Yeah, like once we get through all this, everyone's still gonna have their Switch.
Yeah,
people are still gonna have their whatever
like,
games they bought.
Like, oh, okay, I'm done with it. All right.
I wasted $300 on this. I don't think I'm gonna throw it out just because we're not in the middle of a pandemic anymore. You know what I mean?
Right. So yeah, so just for like the next thing, so I guess we'll talk about just like everything that has been shown off, sort of, and sort of like how to temper expectations. So yes, we had the the Tony Hawk thing, which was cool. It was cute. I'm very excited for it. Then we had the big thing, which was the Unreal Engine 5 being shown off.
Which is, I mean, how do you feel about that? Like, they said everything is going to be like Unreal 4 compatible. Is that like possible?
Yeah, well, I'd hope so, because they're the ones who made Unreal 4. So it's like, I'd hope, like, if they're anyone wants to say it, I hope that it would be them, like, I hope they're not lying.
Yeah, I mean, but like, I don't know. Well, it's good to see all that Fortnite money going into something very, very good for like the community.
Yeah, this is like you know, say what you will, as much as terrible as Epic can be, a lot of these policies that they've put out for Unreal 5 sound very, very good. You know, like for example, like the first million that you make off of an Unreal 5 game, you don't have to worry about like sending any percentage of that to Epic, which is like crazy, you know, especially for smaller developers. And then there's just like a lot of, you know, forget all of like the graphical stuff and like all of like the advancements. The sheer like ease of access and like it's just going to be super easy on the developer side, and just for people just not only getting their hands on Unreal 5 but also just using Unreal 5.
Yeah.
So I hope that kind of changes a lot of like crunch culture and stuff in gaming and just makes things a lot easier for everybody. Like you can like one of the big things is you can really you can just drop in assets from anything, from my understanding.
From any, that's a broad statement.
No,
define anything. I was like, wait a second now.
You can if you got a book in your room, you can put it in Unreal 5. You can just put people in Unreal 5. Just trap them in there.
Next time your mom yells at you for not putting your socks away,
be like, Mom, putting you in the engine. I'm sorry.
Drop her in Unreal 5. Let her know.
Word. Just let her go. But no, yeah. So they were talking about So the demo was really cool, and like the one of the things they used to explain it was that, say, like the characters like going through like a temple, and they find this very intricate statue, and they were like, this statue was made in ZBrush, which is a very fancy like art sort of like animation software. And they were like, we made this in ZBrush and we just dropped it in, and we didn't have to convert it or anything. Like we just took the file, dropped it in. It's just presented as is. And then the character went into another room, and then they were like, this engine is so powerful, we dropped like 300 of the same statue in, and the game could still run perfectly fine, and it still had the same level of fidelity and like detail that the artist put in. So that's really crazy.
That's a hard flex right there.
It was a super flex, like you know, I mean, again, like all these tech demos are supposed to like wow and like amaze you, and I was like, okay, this is cool. You know, I try to be skeptical of these things. I was like, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
And the big example they were using a lot was like, The Mandalorian used a lot of Unreal for like the backgrounds and stuff.
Did it actually?
Yeah. So like the way that they filmed a lot of the desert scenes and stuff, and just most of the scenes, is that they built this giant like sound stage like dome with like projector screens, and then they just like projected the landscapes onto it, and they made all those landscapes in Unreal 4.
Damn.
Which is really cool, and they're hoping that like they can have more like TV and movie studios use Unreal 5 just as easily as possible.
That'd be amazing.
To make, just use background stuff and just to make whatever they want. And then, you know, like if a game developer wants to use someone else's assets from like a movie or a TV show, they can just drop that in, like no problem. So it has a lot of potential. Of course, you know, these tech demos are like, things aren't going to look like that right out of the gate. You know, this is sort of like the potential of next gen,
right?
You know, using Unreal 5, so like I wouldn't expect things to look like this till like maybe like mid to like late, you know, this gen. But it's just something exciting to look forward to.
I mean, I'm super excited. Like, I just really want to get my hands on like a new Xbox, because I still have like an edition 1 Xbox One, so I'm like sick of it. I just want something new, you know, something new and shiny to put on my shelf to do things with. Totally. And you know, seeing all the graphics, honestly, my favorite part of whenever anything gets announced are all the memes that come out of it. So like the memes of like someone put a Banjo-Kazooie model in the demo. Someone put a Mario 64. Nintendo hire this man. That meme kills me every fucking time. So like stuff like that gets me really excited, because it's like what fans can do with this stuff in comparison to what developers do with it is always really interesting to me.
Yeah, it's always really funny, and it's just you know what it is? It's like development engines are really cool, and I'm excited that people get, like, the fact that we're talking about it is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But it also just goes to show like how little we know about the next gen.
Yeah.
And it's like you know, we know a little bit about the Xbox, like we know kind of how it runs a little bit. But the most important part is that we just really haven't seen any like truly next gen games. Like every game they've more or less been showing off is like also going to be on like Xbox One or like PS4 and stuff.
Because they still need to bring like last gen into next gen. Because they always do that whenever there's a new generation.
And most studios are still going to have plenty of games that come out for this current gen, as well as the next gen. You know, which is fine, because that's just how things are. You can't just like completely stop working with, like it would just be like kind of crazy to like just stop working on this current generation because everybody's bought how many PS4s and Switches and stuff.
Absolutely.
But it's just this Unreal Engine's like the only thing that people have seen that is like, you know, quote unquote next gen. So everyone's just kind of like laser focused on it so far.
I don't know, man. Speaking as an Xbox fanboy, or a once Xbox fanboy, now that I'm cross-platform, I own everything now. I really want Halo Infinite to be, you know, good. Because here's a fun fact: there has been a single Halo entry in the entire Xbox One lifecycle. Halo: The Master Chief Collection does not count. It is just old Halo games put onto the Xbox. If you want to count it, sure. But the only like new entry into the series.
Are they remastered? Are they like are they up-resed? Or are they like...
Well, okay, Halo 2 got an anniversary edition, I think, in the Master Chief Collection. Halo 1 already had an anniversary edition, and Halo 3 had nothing. So I don't even know if they.
You're Halo 3.
Yeah, I don't even know if they like boosted anything for like Halo Reach that got added pretty recently. Right. I don't know if they're gonna do that with ODST. I don't know anything, and that's a problem, right? Because I want to know things. Right. Because for God's sake, this is Xbox we're talking about. Halo. This is the only thing that like Xbox still has that's like theirs.
How many years ago did Halo 5 come out? Like, for God's sakes, like.
I wish I knew, dude. I've blocked out a lot of Halo 5 on purpose.
Yeah, Halo 5 just like came out, got like torn to shreds, and then they were like, "We just not working on any Halo stuff." For, like,
terrible marketing. What a mess. But that's my point, right? Like you have all this potential to launch a console again with a Halo entry. Like don't fuck it up. Like just show us something that's not like hot garbage or just nothing.
Word. Like I want everybody to have their game. Like I want everybody to do well. You know. So whenever there's like a good game, I'm very excited. But I really want Halo to do well. As someone who's never played Halo, and I would like to play Halo.
Even as someone who's never played Halo, you understand.
Yeah, I understand its importance. I understand how how important it is to everybody. You know, and I want Halo Infinite to be good, especially because Microsoft is okay. So like Microsoft doesn't need to do well in the console section. Because they're just. They got Windows, they got tablets, they got whatever. They can do whatever they want, you know. But they're coming into this generation from such a disadvantaged position that they really just need to come out of the gate swinging. And they've made such a huge deal about Halo Infinite being like, this is our holiday launch title. Day one, you will get Halo Infinite on your Xbox, and you're gonna like it. And like that just needs to be good. That just needs to be really good, and just show people what the Xbox is going to be all about, and convince people. Because at the end of the day, no teraflops, no like hard drive, nothing. None of that's going to matter if there's no games.
Yeah, and also it doesn't matter how nice the game looks either, right? Like you can make Halo, you can make Master Chief fucking sweat, and you could fucking taste it while you play the game. If the game is bad, it's a bad game.
If it's a bad game and if it doesn't run well, then what's the point?
Exactly. If it's not fun, why bother?
Right, exactly. That's so true, and it's like that's the other issue with like this next gen stuff, because it's like you could talk about like millions and millions of triangles like they were talking about in the Unreal 5 tech demo. Yeah. You could talk about all these graphics and stuff, which is great. They're all important. But I just want, for God's sake, I just want a game to run well, Like, there's so many AAA games from this generation that they just run like absolute garbage.
Yeah.
Like I got a PS4 Pro. Like this thing should not be chugging. Like when I put in Uncharted 4 when I'm playing Doom or like something, you know?
Exactly.
I really hope like there's really not that further that we can really go graphically. Like I just want a game to run good. I just want to play it. I want it to be a good game, and I just want it to run good. That's all I want. You know?
Yeah. All we can do is hope for the best, right? Until we hear something new. Hopefully during these next like few months, while everyone's announcing their own things.
Right. And I think there will be, but I think it's just the wait's just gonna be. It's just going to be a little bit longer, you know, because again, Xbox not talking about stuff till July. They've said that, you know, Sony has been very like quiet about things, but I'm sure they're going to have some big PS5 blowout. Nintendo's been quiet about things, but again, they're just going to throw things out there, you know. So it's just you know, it's unprecedented times for a time when you would like there would literally be a date for when you hear about the future of the game industry, and now that date's gone, and now you're kind of up in the air, and you don't know when it's gonna happen, you know, and you gotta wait even longer for it. Which is, again, it's fine. Everyone's at home. Well, most people are at home, if you're lucky, you know.
If you're fortunate enough to be home, yeah.
Right. So if you can wait, you know, waiting's good. But yeah, it's just gonna be really interesting to see how well the next few months go for like gaming news, and like how well these studios, like, it definitely gives studios time to breathe and just like, you know, get themselves together and just like figure out how they're gonna survive the next few months. But it's also like, it's just gonna be interesting to see, like, you know, how many other studios are gonna follow Sony and be like, well, I'm not gonna do E3, I can just do my own thing. So
yeah, here's a good question. Do you think E3 is going to be dead because of this? Do you see E3 coming back next year?
You know, I don't see it immediately dying after this, but I see this being like the big nail in the coffin and like the wake-up call for like a lot of other developers. So like next year, excuse me, like I can definitely still see like developers like still showing up next year, but I can see like less and less of them finding importance in it, you know?
Okay.
Like, just for like tradition's sake, some like the big ones probably will. Sony's never coming back, because Sony and like the company that makes E3, they have like a big falling out over something. But
Sony doesn't need to come back, dude. Sony, like,
no, they don't need to. They can just have their own press conference, you know. They can just do whatever. Like no one needs E3. Everyone can just kind of do their own thing. Like it's a great networking event for like smaller developers, you know. It's great for like journalists to like meet developers and stuff. Like, it's great. Again, just get everybody, from the fans to the reporters to the developers, all in the same room and just talking about what they love. But from a marketing standpoint, I just don't feel like it's gonna impact anymore, you know.
We're not gonna make it.
That's where.
Oh god, I had something to say. Have I pulled the statistic out about how Sony is completely dominating the console war?
Yeah, no, don't talk about like dominating. It's just like
it's just a fun fact, like actual numbers showing that Xbox is like
so bad.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
The last time I looked at numbers, obviously this has gone up severely, probably because of, you know, the current state of the world and such. But even before this was going on, I believe it was around 40 million Xbox One units sold to 107 PlayStation 4 units sold. Well, this is a worldwide count. That is, what, 2.5 times more of a difference?
It's kind of a big deal.
Like, there is no more console war. Sony won, which is why I said that Sony does not need to go to E3. Sony doesn't need E3.
Right, and the thing is, like, Microsoft's coming out of this from such a disadvantaged position, and they really just need to be like, hey, here's this cool thing we have, here's cool games that run really well, here's all these other cool features. Like, they just need to win. They really do need to win. And
honestly, this is it. This is like, they have the money to fund another generation if they wanted to, but if they don't do good this generation, what's the point?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, also, like, you know, because I feel like Xbox just really just like, again, as someone, and I don't have an Xbox One, but as someone who like just saw it, like,
after a while they just like gave up, and then they just started focusing on. They've been making very silent but very important decisions over the years. Ever since they really just like the console war was decided, like not even like after like it started, like they lost it very early on. So Microsoft started, instead of like they were trying to focus on like great games, but they were also like focusing on like, you know, these games are great, but you don't really need an Xbox to play them. You can like play them on like if your computer runs Windows, you can play it and stuff. So they were trying to make their games like as accessible as possible, and that was kind of working for them in their favor. And they also like they introduced like Xbox Game Pass, which like no one knows, it's basically just like Netflix for gaming. Wait, Mook, do you have Game Pass?
Oh hell no, absolutely not.
You just don't want to. You don't like the idea of like not owning them.
Well, besides that, like besides owning, like preferring to own physical things like I do, it's just I don't know. A subscription service for video game doesn't really sell me. You know?
I feel that. I feel that.
I like if I spend all this, it makes sense, like, you know, financially, but it's just not. It just doesn't sell me. I don't know. I've never been able to explain it. It's just not that appealing to me.
Yeah, I think it's just very counterintuitive to how we like have consumed games growing up.
Yeah.
Like we just you know, we buy a game physically and then it's on our shelf and we get to look at it and we own it. We can play it. You know, we can bust out like the N64 or the GameCube, like whatever we want. You know, but like with like Game Pass, I mean, like, okay, so like Game Pass, like we may not like it, but Game Pass has been doing very well, and it's only like $7 a month, and like there's like a lot of AAA games that end up on there, and it's been winning Microsoft a lot of good points, but I definitely see like people not enjoying it because just even me personally, I much rather like if I have the option to, like if it's easy to buy a game physically, I'll do that. Sometimes I'll buy a game if it's like super cheap, like digitally. Like if they're having like a super sale, I'll be like,
of course.
I'll just buy it for like $5.
Yeah, I picked up the Division 2 for like $3 when the DLC came out not that long ago. So like that's a good idea, but like for me, stuff like this, new releases do not come out on them, right? You're not gonna find, like when Cyberpunk drops, you're not gonna find Cyberpunk on Game Pass. So
the Microsoft first party titles, they're all on Game Pass day one, actually.
Really?
So Gears 5, Gears Tactics, Halo Infinite's gonna be on Game Pass day one. You know, Ori, the new Ori sequel was on there day one.
So I'm just dead wrong, huh? Shit.
Yeah, every Forza game's on there. Like it's kind of crazy, you know. Which, you know, it's great because again, if you don't want to spend $60 on like a brand new release, you can get Game Pass and then you get every single, you know, Microsoft game.
I'm just dead wrong. Then my whole point was gonna be like, yeah, well, I'm gonna be spending $7 a month and then $60 whenever a new game comes out because it's just not gonna be on there. I'm just wrong.
Yeah, Microsoft just like destroyed you.
Damn. All right, I gotta get Game Pass.
You gotta buy an Xbox Series X. Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna get the Xbox and the PS5 no matter what, right? Like I have money set aside for that. That's not an issue. But now, apparently, I need Xbox Game Pass for just $7 a month. Dude, this episode of Discord Discussion was brought to you by the Microsoft Game Pass.
Not only do you get hundreds of games, you get hundreds of games from both the 360 and the OG Xbox days. Like their backwards compatibility is like insane.
Yeah, no, kudos to Xbox for being as efficient as they are with backwards compatibility for the One.
Right.
It's really good. Being able to put in like Black Ops or Modern Warfare 2 into my Xbox One and like playing it is really, really good. Like the fact that the servers are still working and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Very,
still,
very.
Like making these games as accessible as possible on Game Pass. It's like, you know, I respect it. But yeah. Anyways,
good move, but too late, right?
Yeah, no, it's totally too late. Like well, that's the thing. Like they're coming into this generation with Game Pass and a bunch of other cool stuff. So it's like, you know, now all of these really like kind of silent features are going to be at the forefront. You know. Mm-hmm. And if I was Microsoft, I would, whoever buys an Xbox Series X on like day one, you get Game Pass for like a few months. Like you get the trial Game Pass. Like that'll entice people to buy an Xbox Series X. But anyway, so the other thing that I want to say was that they also started buying a lot of studios.
Yeah, and my whole thing was I had a mock interview with someone at Microsoft, really nice guy.
Yeah.
Like how Microsoft, like we spoke briefly about how like Microsoft buys, like how at least Xbox within Microsoft buys like studios that are doing well and then does like nothing with them.
Right.
And that's always been an issue for me. It's like, you know, if a horse won a race, you buy the horse, that's cool, but the horse isn't going to race. You need to give the horse a jockey. You need to feed the horse. You need to do this. You need to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were
I mean,
you gonna
like,
say?
like I definitely feel like they've definitely learned from that mistake going into this next generation, because apparently they were like, you know, like, because they bought Double Fine, which are the guys who made Psychonauts and everything. You know, they bought up, you know, the infamous Rare buy like years ago, and then they just never did anything with them until like recently. You know, they bought up Ninja Theory. They're the guys who made, you know, Hellblade, which is really good. They've just been buying more like really interesting like studios.
Minecraft?
And what's up?
Minecraft. They've been going really hard with Minecraft. I respect that a lot.
They own Minecraft, right?
Yeah.
Like, Microsoft owns Minecraft. Yeah. So they own Minecraft, which is like, last I checked, I think it was the number 2 or the number 1 best-selling video game of all time. So it's like they've just been buying things and they were like, you know, all of these studios have been working on Xbox Series X games, and it's like once they mobilize all of those studios, and I feel like they're really going to utilize them this time. I think they're really going to they're going to have like a really nice roster of like solid first-party titles.
God, I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think again, that's all it comes down to. It's just if you have good games, then that's why people buy your giant box for $500.
Nintendo Switch has games.
That's my favorite ad.
My
It's
favorite
so,
campaign is the
it's
Nintendo
so,
Switch
like,
has games.
I remember, I think it was like during the fucking Super Bowl, where it was just Nintendo Switch has games, and then it just showed off the games, and I was like, that's how you sell games. It's just no one cares about like teraflops. Like people just care if you have games.
Honey, Nintendo has games.
The TV, I'm gonna go buy 10 Switches right now. Oh my god.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
really all it is. That's all it is. I don't care about like all of this other stuff is cool, but I just don't care if you don't have games. Like that's it. You know.
Yeah.
So.
What? God, I had something to say and I completely lost it. God. Tetris 99 is kicking my ass, by the way. For those of you who are listening on the podcast episode of this, I've been playing Tetris 99 this entire time, and I'm getting my ass handed to me.
What's your rank right now? Like, what's the highest you got so far?
I think I hit 13 yesterday, which is pretty thick. I don't know if is there a way to tell how much you've actually gotten?
Do you no, I mean like you're like ranking the
Oh, my level.
Like
Wait, hold on,
What?
slow down. What are we talking about?
I'm talking about like how far you've gotten in the match. Like what was your highest level? Like highest like rank in the match?
Yeah, I finished 13th once.
Oh, 13. Oh, sorry. Okay. Oh, that's cool.
I answered it and you were like, no, that's wrong.
I thought you meant your level. Sorry.
Any final notes?
I just like games, and I like watching trailers and consuming products and buying things.
I want to make that the title of the episode. I like
Consuming
games.
products. I like games. Oh, that's just it. We like games.
I like buying
We like
things.
hearing about games. That's it. That's it. That's what we talk about for an hour. We like games. We like talking about games. We like hearing about games. We like playing them. No, we hate playing them. No, I hate playing games. I like talking about games.
Yeah, no, we don't. We're not here to play games. We're here to talk about games and nothing else. Because I hate video games.
Gross. I hate video games.
Imagine liking
yeah,
video games in
it's just-
2020.
What's up?
Imagine liking video games in 2020.
Oh god, if you like video games, get out of here. Don't even talk to us. Yeah, so it's just yeah, we're just in uncharted waters really, and you never like they could just announce some crazy thing tomorrow morning after we finish streaming, like recording this. Who knows? I don't even know. I kind of like that. I kind of just like waking up and be like, oh, there's a Paper Mario trailer. It's like, oh, there's a Metroid thing. Oh, there's this and that. Oh, Sony just showed off the PS5 and it looks like the PS4 but with an extra 2 layers. I don't know.
But that's what I was saying earlier, right? It's like that element of like we need to constantly stay on edge feeds into hype culture so much.
Yeah.
That it's kind of good.
It's like it's manic energy, and it's like, oh, I don't know what's gonna happen next, and then you tune in one day and it's like, oh, all this cool stuff's just here.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited.
Like there's no schedule for it anymore, but now it's just it's up in the air, which is cool. So.
The lack of schedule makes it a lot more exciting for me.
Yeah, it's like an event. It's just, again, we wake up tomorrow, we don't know what's gonna happen, so.
Exactly.
We'll see what happens at the end of this summer, and see what happens.
Yeah. Okay.
It could be bad. It could show off nothing, or it could be good.
Could be bad. We really need to take it on like a event by event type of deal.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely like people grade like press conferences and stuff, so we could always like grade stuff at the end and see like, yeah, who did well, who didn't do well, so. So we'll see.
We will see. That's for sure. Okay. Here we go. We'll get into the outros now. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for listening. For those on the podcast, we appreciate you tuning into us.
We do.
Make sure you hit that follow or subscribe, or however. I know nothing about podcasts, so I don't know what to tell you to do. But whatever it is, do it.
Click listen. Click listen.
Click listen. Make sure
your icon to listen.
You download it, tell your friends about us, and we will see you. Don't forget to follow us on all our socials. We will see you guys and listen or talk to you guys. How do you sign off on a podcast? What the fuck?
We just shut our mouths. We just stopped talking.
Okay, all right. A full minute of silence to end the podcast. Ready? Go. Shh. We're supposed to be quiet. Shh.
Don't tell anyone. No.
Alexa, you have 30 seconds for a final comment. Go.
30 seconds. Final comment.
Oh, fuck. I got nothing.
That's it. Oh, you get.
Alexa, you have 30 seconds for a final comment. Fuck. Final comment. Ashley, go. 15 seconds.
Oh god.
Recycle. A good one.
I do like the video game. I don't know. Fuck. Whatever. I love you.
She loves everyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Sweet. I will stop recording. Say bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone. See you next time. If you like that and you want to hear more from us, feel free to follow or subscribe. Feel free to follow us on all our social stuff. Twitch and YouTube has exclusive content, and we'll see you guys for the next episode. Thank you for listening.